Welcome, everyone. This is a call to order for the Arbor Community Services Advisory Board for the May 8th meeting. Attendance, Emily, I think actually we have two new people. So why don't we, I'm going to skip a little bit. Why don't you guys introduce yourself and then say, well, I guess we'll say you're here and then we'll actually come back to you.
Call to order 6:02 p.m.
Yep. So Daryl, remind me of your last name. Why don't we just go around and say your name and introduce yourself?
Daryl Wright, new member. Spent time 12 years on the Gorham School Committee before moving to Scarborough. So have a little bit of experience in different boards and things like that, but looking forward to participating.
Happy to have you.
Welcome. Roger, you're up.
Yeah, Roger Shabbat. I live in Higgins Beach. Been here for 25 years. Not at this meeting, but at Higgins Beach.
I thought we were more efficient than that.
Nick Klish, Community Services Director.
Nicole Hall, Deputy Director, Community Services.
Emily Loader, Vice Chair and Recording Secretary.
And a master of that. I should add.
You're welcome.
Brittany Jackson, new member, Scarborough, 3 years now.
Welcome.
Yes, welcome. Okay, and we have Art who's absent. You already went through it, right? Do you have that, Emily?
Yep, got it.
Okay. Karen is here, so she's our liaison. Welcome. Oh, Karen, we didn't get you. Do you want to introduce yourself? Is she here?
A chance to speak? Sure. I'm Karen Shoup. I am the Town Council Liaison to the Community Services Advisory Board. And for the new members, I actually was a member of this board before I became a town councilor.
Okay, welcome everyone. So let's approve the minutes, which from our March 13th meeting. Did anyone have any comments or corrections to those?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor? All right, minutes are approved. We've got citizen comment limited to agenda items only. I see a lot of people here. Were you commenting on any of the items that were on our agenda? Okay. Then we'll keep moving. New members, Daryl and Brittany, I think you guys already did that, so we can move right along. Thank you for joining us too and for your service. Community Services Director's update. Nick, you're on now.
Sure. So I guess I'll start with a budgetary update. Last night, as most know, was the second reading of the town budget that was approved. What that means for community services, we will be obtaining a new position, a recreation coordinator position that will begin post July 1. We will start advertising late June, early July. Hopeful to have somebody in place for August or very soon after. We're really excited about this position. This means a lot to the group as a whole. We're really going to focus this position. It'll work under Steve Kramer, who's our recreation manager and also our beaches manager. So we'll have some toggle with beaches, but it'll be a primary coordinator position overseeing programming as we look to boost our programming and support the programs that we currently have, as well as expand those for the town, including with all of our growth recently. Secondarily, from a capital improvement plan standpoint, all of our projects that were on the list this year was approved, and there was late 2 additional adds over the course of the last month that weren't on our initial submission. One of those projects includes $100,000 towards additional pickleball courts in the town, and another $75,000 separate allocation towards the purchase, supporting a project of lights at Peterson Park for the Little League. It's a match situation where Little League will be investing capital as well to light those fields. That the field over there is heavily used, and Little League is expanding to a point where they don't have enough age-appropriate fields. So to maximize usage, lights was definitely a need. So that would be it on budget. I do want to talk a little bit about our beach updates because we invested a lot of capital within the last year and a lot of focus towards the infrastructure improvements over there, primarily around traffic concerns, safety concerns for the public. So I want to tell you what is completed. The new split rail fence went up at Pine Point. There's a new reclaimed pedestrian walking path along the fence line of Avenue 5. A new trolley stop at the corner, which will really help with the traffic flow over there because it was basically stopping in the road with common traffic. There's a dedicated entrance and exit, which will have 2 lanes. One lane will be cash and pass, one lane will be credit and debit. Again, will help us streamline the process of the busyness of that parking lot. The ticket booth was moved from the centralized location at Pine Point to the front entrance. We did a lot of beautification around the area as well. But that was to better serve the public from a public facing standpoint at the entrance. In addition to that, there's a new access gateway at Pine Point for public works. Their direct access there. We had to restrict and have a more firm gate process over there because people at times would try to drive a car down there, and we wanted to make it more safe. So those are the completed projects, and the final projects that are in progress will be completed next week. So we're very happy. We get a lot done in a short amount of time. The main parking lot will be fully seal coated, striped, and lined, so it'll be closed next Monday through Wednesday for that to happen. The overflow parking lot will be open for folks to still have access to the beach. And then the installation of our ADA Moby mat, which will roll down to the beach to give access to folks to get down to the beachfront. So we're excited about that addition as well. But those are the last 2 things in progress. So again, we accomplished a lot from that standpoint. And then I just want to talk about general updates, kind of a tutorial on what community service has been up to. Hiring. We are in our very busy season in terms of our summer camps coming up, which we service over 350 kids. I'm very happy to say we are fully staffed going into the summer, almost a month and a half in advance. That is very good in this climate around childcare and camps. In addition, we're also fully staffed for seasonal beach attendants and fully staffed as of this afternoon with our 3rd park ranger. So we are re-implementing and carrying over the park ranger program that was brought forward last year. So we'll have 3 seasonal park rangers. Tony Montagano, our lead ranger, will be back. We'll have 2 new additional faces. And our goal with the park ranger program this year, not only for support to be PD and enforcement around the beaches, but it's to be more educational purpose. We want to do more with tide pools and with kiddos and different things around the beaches. We're going to have separate, at least 2 of the beaches, separate stanchions in areas where they're more visible. So basically an easy up tent with a park ranger monogrammed banner. So folks know where they are when they're programmed. In addition to that, I did want to state, I know Nicole mentioned it in her intro. She didn't mention it, but she said her position. Nicole was recently promoted to the deputy director of the department. We are very happy, and it is very well deserved. And then lastly, the one thing I wanted to bring up for the board to chew on and for us to maybe have future discussions. There used to be an active senior advisory board committee that has been defunct for how many years? I'm not entirely sure.
We remember.
But
It came up. We've talked about
oh,
it.
you have?
Yeah, we
Okay.
have, but I don't know how long it's been defunct.
So Gail Platts, who's our active adults coordinator, she's been really active in bringing a lot of our programming back. She started that we are an age-friendly town as well. So she has the age-friendly committee. But with that, she has no direct council liaison support. It's just basically a group that meets, not lack of direction, but support around, pushing the agenda forward. So my thought would be, while there's no active advisory board, to at least from my standpoint, or even bring Gail to our meetings to do a report on the age-friendly committee and what they're doing and talking about, and then to have Karen's support from council and CSAB for recommendations in areas that they can look to improve for holistically for our community. So I wanted to bring that up tonight. And that's all I have from the director.
Thank you.
Great update.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's amazing. You've only been here for 2.5 months and
I
you've
know.
accomplished a lot, so thank you.
You're welcome.
Actually, on that follow-up on the age, we did talk about it. I think it's gone up and down waned and that waxed based on involvement and activity. But I mean, part of our goal later on is to talk about programming, and that would fit very nicely into that conversation. Okay, anybody have any questions on that?
What did you say you put in the pickleball court? The new one?
So we don't have a technical location now, but the thought around it is to put pickleball where the skate park currently is and move skate park stay within the complex. We're thinking in the area that kind of abuts the tennis courts where those new bocce courts are. And we would move the bocce courts to another area. But we have not found a location, but I do want to state that pickleball doesn't happen until we have a location for skate park. They are working congruently. We're not losing a recreational service for one piece. So it's my duty to kind of find that proper location. But again, we want to keep it on campus. There was some thought to the second area behind the maintenance shed for that we have an ice rink. But again, we're in the early stages. I couldn't tell you where it's going to end up. But we're looking to do it.
Very good. Any other questions? Okay, moving on to the school site committee. Karen?
Hi. Do you want the school update and then a council update?
Yeah, you're really scratchy.
Am I?
Is that us or her?
I don't know. Is it me? Can you hear me now?
We can, but
Yeah,
it
but
doesn't
it's
sound
really
great.
awful.
Yeah.
It's a little echoey.
Are you, you're not the one trying to connect on your iPhone, are you?
No.
That would make it bad, but okay.
And that just happened.
Okay.
I could try to reconnect on my phone, or I could try to move forward with this, guys.
That's,
Maybe try to reconnect.
yeah.
Okay.
While she's reconnecting, you guys flew through that agenda. I'm sorry I'm late.
We don't have to stay till 8.
Yeah, no,
Right,
we
just
don't
the
have
time.
to.
Oh, I thought it was 7:30.
And actually, this is Brittany and Darren.
Hi,
I'll be
Brittany.
sitting here.
I figured, yes.
That was probably the most important thing.
Yes, thank you. I'm Ellen. Nice to meet you. Welcome.
Okay, is this better?
Yes.
Yes, much better.
Awesome. Okay. So first, I think you guys were looking for a school update. And I mean, I don't think I have more information than what is being provided to the public at this point. I think the only kind of thing that's out there right now is the location, which has still not been revealed. I don't know the location. So unfortunately, I have not been part of the conversations when it comes to location. I don't think Nick has been. I do not believe that the community services has had a voice in this process. So, you know, our dreams of acquiring land that might be big enough for a community center, I have no idea. We weren't part of those conversations, so I don't know if that's going to be a consideration. If you're unaware, I mean, we do have two options. One of the
I was just
options.
thinking that. Karen, can I interrupt you for a second?
Yeah, absolutely, sure.
We sent that letter to the town council and Tom Hall. Did we get a response back?
Nope. I can
Okay.
tell you, like, the conversation in one of the workshops that I went to, I spoke to the chair of the school building advisory board after, and he just said, you know, we don't want to cloud the subject by bringing on another topic, I think was kind of like the concern. I'm not saying I agree with that. I'm just kind of telling you that's kind of the message that has been going. That is the message that I've been getting consistently with a lot of the work that I'm bringing forward is we have a school that we need to focus on. Good or bad, that's the answers and the things that I'm getting from my fellow counselors. So that's the situation that it is. I know so there's two school options is, I mean, one of the options is to do a consolidated school. So I would imagine that would be a new location. So I mean, that there is a possibility that we might end up with land for a community center. I just encourage everyone to please do the survey. It's out there. It's not that long. I think they're really looking for feedback on the final two choices. I really don't know what to expect about what would be available on the land besides building for a school though, until we know what the options are. I don't know if there are any specific questions about the school at this point. Again, I haven't been completely involved in the process. I get the updates at the council. I kind of read the updates that we get online and things like that. I think we're just kind of waiting for the big reveal of the location.
You know when the surveys are due? I think it's soonish.
I think it's like the 12th.
May?
May
Yeah.
9th, paper ones, 12th online.
And
Online,
then
yeah.
when's the next meeting after that? Like,
They
so
they
what
meet
was-
every Monday.
So if it's due on the 12th, do you think that, let's see,
That's Monday.
oh, that is Monday. They probably won't reveal that because people could theoretically still be submitting that.
Correct. Yeah, so
So
I
then
don't know
they
how soon.
Would be. Should we keep reaching out or should we ask for a response to our letter? Or is it just
What do you
a
think?
waste of energy?
I mean, you're do whatever the board feels necessary. I'm not sure that it will
Make a difference.
receive at this point in time, if it will receive a response, but it never hurts to.
Should we just follow up and say, we want to make sure you got this? We think this, I mean, because to Karen's point, I forget the word you used, cloud. We were trying to do the opposite, make it pass. Which Karen, I know wasn't your term. But it would be nice just to get some acknowledgement. Maybe that's,
I don't think there's anything wrong with following up and saying, we want to make sure you received this.
and then how do they keep you involved, Nick, and maybe Nicole? Oh, weird, Nick and Nicole, you guys are like the perfect team.
We get general updates at our leadership meetings once a month or, through council. And I have a weekly meeting with Tom. So anything that comes out of that would be updated, but there has been no specific talk about the school. Updates.
And he never acknowledged our letter.
Yeah, Tom, I was gonna say, didn't it go to Tom also?
Not within any of my one-on-one conversations or. Other meetings.
And I know, obviously, I'm like, as I told you all, because of Joseph's soccer, and we're just gonna jump right in, but I think we have an obligation to follow up. If it's our position that this should be included and the goals and responsibilities that this particular group has are to advance that community center, then I think we have an obligation to follow up so that when people come later and say, why did this not happen? It's not falling on us.
I think that's true.
Yeah.
I agree. Can you bring it up in your meeting with Tom and then, I guess
Yeah, I
Tricia,
was gonna say,
Trish,
how
sorry.
was the right, what should be the protocol? Should I-
If it was me, I would probably respond to the email you sent. And reply all and say, I just want to confirm that you received this and it was
Okay,
received
okay.
and read, acknowledged.
and how can we support this? Not idea, but this path. And then you could bring it up with Tom at your weekly meeting.
I feel like if they've already got 2 spots and they haven't really considered it, it's a moot point, but to Amanda's point, we're doing our due diligence.
Well, and we might, depending on how people answer the survey, there might not be a third, they might not be using a spot. So I think it's still kind of up in the
Oh,
air.
yeah.
So,
Oh, you do?
well, because based on the survey, I don't know about the land.
So there are 2 options, and the consolidated school is gonna have to be placed somewhere else. I know the priority was to find town property, but I don't know. Again, no one knows what those properties are unless you're in those executive sessions that they've been having.
But it's narrowed down to 2.
2 options, and I would imagine they're gonna come out with a site selection with that option, with the option. And I apologize, I do not know when that is.
Are they gonna come out with a cost for each one of the?
So
suggestions?
if you take the survey indicates that both
Obviously,
projects
it's
cost the
included.
same. So the survey says both projects cost the same.
Okay.
Very similar
Okay.
scope.
But we don't know yet how much is that gonna be?
There's an
up?
estimate, yeah.
Estimate.
I think the
We haven't
estimate is
done the survey yet,
133
Roger.
million.
Well, no, I was wondering if they're if they knew what the buildings were gonna do, how much
I
it
know,
would
I'm
be for
teasing you
each.
because in the survey it says how much is each.
It's roughly 133 million for each.
I was joking.
So it comes out, that's the whole thing.
Yeah.
Prices come down.
A little bit.
I know this is out of order, and I can wait for public
Well, we had public comment at the beginning of the meeting.
I know, sorry, I'm the vice chair of the school committee.
Oh,
I'm Larry Kane.
okay.
So I can answer some of it, but I know it's out of order, so if you want to wait, that's okay.
Yeah.
Go for it.
We'd love to hear it, yeah.
So to a couple of the questions, I can't speak to anything about the communication with the town, between you guys, I don't know anything about that. The property decision is still confidential, that's to protect both the property owner and the town in negotiations. It's been narrowed down to a few possible choices, has not been decided yet. And both options, so there's an option for a consolidated school, which would in effect you'd replace all three of the current primaries. That would obviously need a new location. The other option is to replace 8 Corners School with a larger third primary school, and Blue Point and Pleasant Hill would stay as they are with expansions. But that new 8 Corners School is not on that property, but would also be a site. So either option requires a site location.
Got it. Thank you for clarifying.
Yeah.
I thought that I misunderstood, so that's great clarification. So we need a new site regardless of which
Yes.
option.
Different size sites.
Yeah.
And some of the ones being considered could handle either school. And one of the ones that is public is on the municipal campus, back where Memorial Field is.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure. Sorry.
No,
Beyond
thank you.
word.
I'm glad you spoke up.
Did you
Okay.
see our letter? Have they reviewed the letter?
I don't know anything.
About the letter, okay.
If you'd like, I can move on to a town council update.
Yep, that would be great.
First, I want to congratulate Nicole. Congratulations, well deserved. She did a great job filling in. And then briefly, I know that Nick talked about the budget, but I wanted to highlight the fact that we had groups of people show up and email town council and advocate for like pickleball courts. And I think it was really reassuring that, you know, in the grand scheme of a huge budget, it actually wasn't a really big ask. And it was really rewarding to work with council and be able to kind of say, hey, like, you know, let's put that in the budget, let's make it work. I advocated very strongly that though, that we can't put it with the skate, where the skate park is, unless we relocate the skate park. That was kind of one of the things that I was really wanted to make sure happened. And then with the baseball lights, I think that was great because apparently that group had been in conversations with Todd for a while about getting lights at Peterson. And when anyone comes with matching funds, it's always great to be able to make that work. And so that wasn't a big ask for them at all. And then I think generally, I just think community services did really well. I think Nick got everything he asked for, and they got a new employee, which is always great. We're getting 8 new paramedic firefighters and a new ambulance. We're getting new police. I don't know if people are aware, but on slow days or certain days, we actually only have 3 police on duty. And that's like two officers and like 1 sergeant or lieutenant. And so the bump in the police is going to be able to hopefully have 4 people on duty. And if you think about just how much land we have and how diverse we are, I mean, just how spread out we are, I think it's super important. I mean, I'll drive by and I'll be like, there's 3 police at one scene. And I'm like, that's all the cops in town. And so I think it was really rewarding, I think. So I think we made some good investments. The town council is generally focused on moving forward the school. We just denied a huge contract zone thing last night. That was a fun, exciting meeting, but that was denied. I know that, as you know, I am the chair of the ordinance committee, and the ordinance committee is meeting next week, and we were hoping to have the animal control ordinance come before it. But I think because none of you guys are able to come, and because we lost Todd, I think we're feeling uncomfortable with moving forward at all, just because there are a lot of questions about what changes we're making and why we're making those changes. I'm comfortable with them. I want to make you guys aware. I was part of those conversations. I'm ready to move forward the animal control ordinance. I think there are other counselors who have some concerns, probably because of their lack of information. And just to be clear, to date, there's been versions circling around, but there's been no final version that's put out. If people are interested in what the recommended changes are, they can go back and watch your meetings. We still don't have that final version because we want to make sure we're capturing everything, and we want to make sure, but I did want to move forward next week, but I think it would be really helpful to have a committee member there. And without you guys there, I think it would be a little bit bigger lift for me and Nick to push through with
Karen?
short turnaround. Yep.
I had, when I responded to the email with the availability issue next Wednesday, I had asked if there was a possibility of appearing by Zoom right at 5. I mean, I did the significant lift on the ordinance, and no disrespect to my fellow members, but I'd probably be the best person to be
Yeah,
there.
no,
to go with
absolutely.
it. But
I need you
Joseph
there in
has a school
person.
obligation.
Yeah, I think having you there in person, because while you can introduce it, what typically happens is what I'm already getting is a lot of questions. And the
Okay.
last thing I want to do is have it tabled because I can't answer a question. And so
Okay.
I think the decision today was I don't want to go next week and have this all tabled because we couldn't answer 2 or 3 questions. And I think Nick and Nicole have been working so hard to get to where we need to be, but Nick wasn't part of the process. And so I think it would be imperative to have you guys there. With that
So
being
when's the next opportunity
so
to do that?
that's what I want to talk to you guys about, because a town council timeline is a little bit funky and it goes really fast because, basically come like October, September, or basically October, typically work stops. I think elections are coming up and I just want to be realistic about this. And so personally, what I would like to do is, so we're skipping the May ordinance meeting. The next ordinance meeting is in June, but you guys don't meet. I would like to, now that Nick's on board, have a final version for you guys to look at, because I think it's been so long. I want to make sure that we capture everything. I mean, you've already seen.
We had a final version though. I guess, and I know I'm gonna be a pain about this, but we spent literally hours and months doing it. We have a final version.
So
I
have to do
haven't had
something.
time this week to compare all the things that were sent, but we have a final board approved version.
Can I speak just quickly to it?
Sure.
So the version that CSAB produced was then sent to our town planner to be reformatted. So that version that that had the green, the purple, and the blue on it, within that, Nicole and I found areas around definitions that stuff hadn't made it in there. That gave us grave concern that all the work that you put in, stuff was missing. So we spent a lion's share of time yesterday trying to get it, and we even still missed some things, based on your version. There was your version, the current ordinance, the one that was reformatted. So it was really important for us to really capture all of those improvements before pushing it forward to the May one.
I think that's what happened, if I recall, because it is months ago at this point, and we spent an inordinate amount of time on it. That blue, green, purple one, I think at that meeting, we discussed it. Todd was taking notes and he was gonna finalize that version. So that's the last version that we had our fingerprint on. It isn't probably the final version of what we all intended to have in there.
That's the one we directly worked from as well, and found where there was different definitions that hadn't made it in, or different language that hadn't been brought over.
Yeah, I think Ellen, you commented on.
Yeah, there was a couple missing.
And again, we missed a few things, even going back.
So if
That's so
you,
hard to do.
Yeah, going backwards months ago.
Yeah.
it was like-
No, I'm even just saying for you to say, okay, I don't even know what they said, but I'm
Right,
literally gonna compare. I mean, that's an impossible task.
As well as not knowing the premise behind the
Sure.
changes.
Right.
Well, it's like, I read one section one way, but then somebody, Jamie had her eyes on
Yeah.
and she took it another way and she's like, this is what I think they intended. And I'm like, I don't know, but this is the way I
Sure.
read it. So yeah, the fact that everybody read into it differently, clearly something's not clear, right? And so we need that clarity before we push it forward.
Yeah, and I think there was I'm with the man, like, I thought we had a final version. And so I think there was us moving forward, going with, here's our final version. I thought this was all done. And then I think we started to look a little bit closer and realizing that there was some stuff missing. I mean, I think what we have is pretty good and pretty substantial. I appreciate Nick and Nicole going through it very clearly and noting some errors, but they weren't like glaring errors that everyone would have caught. And so I think that's why we're doing this at this point. And so that's where I also want to preempt having these problems in front of the ordinance committee meeting, or having any of these discussions. I really want to make sure that we firm this up and make sure that we know what we're doing, and I also want to relate to the public articulately what the changes are that we're doing, because right now you know, and what I will tell you, town council has gotten probably a handful of emails just saying, don't change the ordinance. And I have interacted with a couple people and I've just said, hey, like, what are you hearing? And I actually don't even know what they're hearing. And so I think it would be great to get a version out and also reassure people that we're not making sweeping changes, or that was my understanding. And then being able to come to ordinance with you there to be able to have a substantial conversation and answer the council questions. And also the ordinance committee is really the opportunity for residents to come and express their concerns, because now once we have that advisory opinion from you, it's up to council to say, are we going to follow this opinion, this advisory opinion? Exactly. Are we going to follow? Are we not going to follow it? And so I would love to I thought we had what we needed to go to ordinance. With that being said, I want to talk about the timeline, because you guys don't meet in June. I know that I know you're bored. July is always a struggle. Okay, so the next time you meet would be September. I don't think we're going to wait till September for you guys to put your eyes on this, because then we're talking about the October ordinance committee meeting, and then we're going to a town council that is turning over. That is not a timeline I want to be on.
So maybe I'm missing something, and I apologize if I am. Is the issue that we want this group here to review this kind of one more time? Because what I'm trying to understand is, why couldn't we do it in June if, let's say,
Yeah.
I'm able to sit down and take a look at it? You know what I mean? Because we know what was approved. Is that so?
So what you're getting to where I'm at. It is up to this committee. If you would like this to move forward, my suggestion would be, hey, can we meet in June? Can we find a time to meet in the next 4 weeks, sometime in June? Jump on Zoom, whatever we need to do, go over the ordinance, or just say, this looks good, and vote. I know that you guys approve the changes. I understand that you guys are aware of it. I think I was fine moving forward until Nick was like, you know what? I see that this is missing and this is missing. And I was like, you know what? This maybe isn't the final version, and I would like you guys to look at it again. And what was missing was like little definitions, just to be clear. They weren't like huge things like that at all. But I think for our due diligence and process wise, it would be good to regroup, have everyone have their sets of eyes on this, make sure it makes sense. Because I know that we sent it to you and you guys already immediately were like, I'm not quite sure that captures what we were looking for. And that's, I don't want to have that conversation in ordinance. I definitely don't. I want to make sure that we're all on the same page and this is the recommendation coming out of this committee. So I think what I would love for you guys to decide, and what you think would be appropriate, is if we could get you a final version, have a meeting, maybe an off meeting, because I know July is hard. Maybe we could meet in June instead of July, or whatever you think is appropriate. I just really want to represent the timeline. And I told Nick as well, our July ordinance committee meeting right now is short-term rentals. That's what's scheduled, and that will consume the meeting at this point. So either we would meet in the beginning of June and get right on the June agenda. We could meet in July or get on the August agenda. There's a couple options. I just really would like to move this along, but not put too much pressure on you guys to regroup and meet to make that happen.
When is the June ordinance meeting? Yeah.
When is the June ordinance meeting, Karen?
So it's always the second Wednesday. So
June 11th.
I'm trying to pull up a calendar.
June 11th.
Thank you.
So it would be June 11th. And we have to get the agenda out like the week before. And so, and ideally,
It's either late May or very first of June,
Yeah.
because they do need a 5-day turnaround for agenda items.
Yep.
So is that business days or calendar days?
That's a really good question.
Well, so I mean,
Gives us a little wiggle room.
And there's no Fridays, remember.
yeah. So like the agenda has to be out, like the ordinance agenda just went out today for our meeting next Wednesday. So by Thursday, she really needs that material. And then we also really need to get it posted on the website so the residents can see it. And I think that's one of my other things is, with ordinance coming up next week and we still didn't have a final version, I was like, not someone to present, I felt uncomfortable moving forward with not getting a version up there by Friday for the residents to look at. we have a version. But like, it's so close, but I don't want to like have it spread all over with like one definition missing. So I don't know what you guys want to do when it comes to that. I do think this ordinance is important. I support it. I haven't seen you guys in a while. I don't know if I told you that. I went to the tennis courts first day that they were open down at Blue Point, and it was covered in dog poop all over the inside of the court. And my son went to Peterson last week for soccer, and guess what was in the middle of the soccer field? Dog poop. So I support this ordinance. I want you guys, like, I want this to move forward because right now, there's really not a lot of repercussions for that type of behavior in town. And good dog owners aren't letting their dogs poop on tennis courts. Like, we all know that. Like, they're not letting them. And so that's where, like, we have a very organized group of good dog owners in town who I would imagine I would hope they don't have problems with us carrying over some of the restrictions that the school already has, like with fields and playgrounds and things like that. So I want to reassure you that I do support this. I want this to go forward. I just want to make sure that we have the best version before we do.
Can I ask what's probably an ignorant question and I should know the answer? So let's say hypothetically, we go this June meeting, it's presented, everyone thinks it's just fabulous. Like, what's the time frame on when it actually like becomes the ordinance?
Well, I mean, so you would go to town council, but this would not come in effect till 2026. Because
That's just what I wanted to double
Yeah.
check. It's
Yep.
not like if we don't, hypothetically, if we didn't do it in June, I think we should. But if we
Right.
didn't, it's not like, oh, the summer, it's all over. Like, it's not happening this year anyway, correct?
Is it on a
No,
fiscal
and
year? So is it like any new ordinances, like when they kick in, like, do they kick in like January 1st of the following year? Or how do they decide when?
is it
we would have to specifically prescribe the ordinance, or I don't know exactly how it would work, if it would be within the ordinance, or if we would just say this is coming effective in 2026. There aren't, and that's also why an important reason why I want to be doing this during this time is because this is the time when more residents are coming to town. We have our summer people. This is when we have more people involved. And so I think it is important to kind of do this process when we do have more residents in town who I think will have opinions about this. I don't want to delay it more. And the last thing I want to do is this in the middle of the winter. That was one suggestion from a town councilor. I do not support that for a second. I do not think we should be changing dog ordinances in the middle of the winter.
But this one would not go into, I mean, just to underscore what we've all said, it's not going into effect for this summer.
No.
No matter if
No
it
matter
goes
what
in May or,
happens,
okay. So I think this issue has gotten a little bit muddied because there were multiple versions out there.
So can we not just pick a date within the next like
Oh,
2
sorry.
weeks and sit and go over page by page and see what the problem is and then give it to Amanda?
Sure.
Well, I was gonna say, depending on the date, I promise I will have done that before we meet, as long as it's.
Well, then we don't need to, right? Because
that's
since we've already done that and then you've reviewed it as well. So if you
Presumably.
do it again and then resubmit it again, then we're good.
It would need to be voted on by the board to send forth to ordinance committee, so you need to have public
So,
We need to have,
viewership.
Oh,
so in
We do a
terms,
Zoom
we
meeting.
need to
that's
but
have
it's
what
not
we're
our,
saying.
it's an ordinance. It's not, has nothing to do with our committee. We're just reviewing it.
Okay.
It's just a
Hold on.
recommendation.
Okay. So procedurally, I can move forward any ordinance I want, but procedurally, it would be great to have a recommendation coming out of this committee that was voted on. I mean, I know you guys support it. I think they're looking for a specific vote. My recommendation would be, let's send out the email and do what we kind of did this week and say, I'm seeing issues, I'm seeing issues. We get together, we have a final version, and we agree that this is the final version. It could be a quick meeting, it can be a long meeting. You guys can use it any way you want. If you want to get together and go through it with, you can, or you can just come together. I would hope that you'll be happy with the final version and there won't be a lot of discussion or debate. I feel like you're all on the same page, but it's really however you want to do it. I don't want to pressure you to meet off of meetings, but I also want you to understand, like, for this to move forward, this is unfortunately kind of how it works with town council, is the sooner we do it, the better before we get to the fall.
so if we meet in July, I guess if it doesn't go into effect till 2026, when would the next meeting of the town council ordinance committee is September? So if we met in July, it would go to them in September. Does that impact the effective date? The effective date is 2026, right? January first or
That's,
July
yeah, I was thinking like
Whatever.
the legislature is like 90 days after they adjourn,
Right.
so that's why I was wondering what our town.
So what
Whether you
difference
do it
does it
in June
make
or
what-
July, it won't change the effect.
That's what
It'll be
I'm
next year
wondering.
anyways.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
why do we need a fire drill here to meet in the next 2 weeks?
Because my understanding was you guys wanted this ordinance to go through as soon as possible.
I think we thought it was going to be then
Effective,
effective as soon as
right.
possible.
Right.
That was,
And if it's not effective for a year, it doesn't really matter.
I guess I would also like to say that if you're, I don't want this to lose the traction. So we have residents who are waiting for us to come out with a version. We have town councilors who are going, what are you doing, Counselor Shoup? And, and so I do feel like, I know that you have residents there tonight. I feel like there's a lot of people wondering, what are the changes that you're making? And I've been getting, we've getting emails, and as a liaison to your committee, it is a little difficult to say, hey, counselors, like, I promise, we're not making sweeping changes, but I can't tell you what they are yet. I worry the longer we get that there is the option for this to not be put on our agenda. I think it's always the discretion of, we just don't want to take this up right now. That is not my opinion.
Was it never on the agenda to begin with? Because we finished it last year.
Yeah, didn't we finish
That's
it
the
like March
problem.
So I,
2020?
yeah, I would like to speak to that for a second.
On this committee's time, we spent months doing this. And we thought it was done.
Yep.
And now we're in a fire drill and we're
Yep.
eating up people's time, and which is somewhat disrespectful for work that we had already done, and it's not because anything we didn't do that we're in this conundrum.
We were ready to turn it over, excuse me for
We did.
dividing. We were ready to turn it over, but then the council came back and wanted us to work on
The piping clover.
No, the fees, the
Yeah.
beach fees.
Mhm.
And that took some time for us.
But it
And
should
then
have
look what
been
happened.
separate. It should have been
They're
discrete.
We did
This
the
was
fees
separate, but then
after.
it got stopped. For some
well,
reason,
our
this got
efforts didn't get
delayed.
stopped. The last thing that we did was they
Right.
came back and they wanted to reformat it. And so we sat at a meeting, and I remember with Todd talking about the reformatting. And I said no, because one of the things that we changed was the formatting, so people
Right.
could find the rules easier.
Yeah.
So that was the
Yes.
last thing we had done, and that was, I think, what you were talking about, is Todd took the notes on that. And then off it went, or so we thought.
Right.
Yeah.
So we did our job. This committee
You
did its
did.
job.
There's no
I-
question.
You guys did your job. I am being told by the town clerk and by my town councilors, I need you to review this and vote on it. I'm trying, this is the process and the procedure. I want to apologize. I do not know what Todd was doing, but he was not doing this work. He met with
Okay,
you guys,
so-
he did it. I don't know why it never moved forward. This is why I am trying very hard to move this forward right now, because I acknowledge the fact that I don't know what happened last year. And I'm very disappointed that this never moved forward, that all of this work was done behind the scenes, that it was revamped, that we have a very close final product. And then we're only finding out now that it's just been sitting there.
Can we vote via email?
I was advised that that's not the best way to
Can we-
do it. I was
Can you
okay
do
with
it via
that.
Zoom? Okay, I would like to suggest that we attempt to see, I know I physically cannot fit one more meeting in my calendar because my brain will explode in the next 2 weeks. I'm sorry. If there's a quorum on the committee that wants to meet, that's fine. I cannot be here. Why don't we see if we can pick a date between now and May 30th that people can meet? If we can't, I would suggest we go into July, since it's not going to be effective till the next year anyway.
Yeah, and I think
So-
one of the considerations you need to make is if someone can come to the ordinance committee meetings. So that is the second Wednesday. So we're talking about June, July, August. So I think that's another consideration, is if Trish, Emily, Amanda, you get, like, if you guys can't make those, then I think we need to think about that. And again, I'm asking for this because we lost Todd. If Todd was here, no offense, Nick, it's typical for staff to come forward with an ordinance, but Nick was not part of the process, and he's not gonna be able to speak to the reasoning and the conversations that you guys were having behind it. And I think that's why we really want to have one of you there.
I can
Um,
do June.
June 10th?
I can, was it?
Ninth,
11th?
ninth,
Okay,
sorry.
first, let's
11th.
go
I can do,
backwards.
I can do
But
June
there is
11th.
11th.
I
so-
can make July happen. I will be in California in August,
So let's first see if
if
we
it's
can-
in person.
Let's first see if we can come up with a meeting in the next 2 weeks.
Do we have, can we vote via Zoom, or do we have to be in
Yep.
person?
Oh, no, you can vote via Zoom, and that's what I'm
So,
saying. If you guys want to
let's-
email and then log on and be like, this looks great,
So Amanda, not to push you again, if
No, I
you
know.
wouldn't mind finding that final version, sending it out to us, and then,
I have my final version. What I need to do is compare it to
Yeah,
what they
I
sent
Blue,
today.
green and purple one.
Even the one that we've been working
Yeah.
on that I've sent, we've since added the updates that you've sent
Okay.
in email, so
Yeah.
that will be the
So, yeah,
one
and-
coming
yeah.
back to you that had been reformatted.
All right, so
Sure.
I will find a time to print out lots of things and put them all over a really big table
yes.
and figure it out.
But I think I would speak on behalf of
I
this
hate
committee
this.
saying that whatever version you come up with
Yes.
is part of the work that we did, and we would
Is the
agree with
work,
you.
yes.
Yes,
And
I've
you,
sent out by
Yes.
email, people review that.
correct, and then
Yes.
once you send that out, we give
Yeah.
like, I don't know, 2 days for review, and then we log on, take 5 minutes, vote on it, and are done. Is that,
Yeah, I think so, and even when it puts work on me, like, this is just my issue, when I'm also really busy at work or with life, I get really overwhelmed by the back and forth communication.
Yeah,
It
it's
was just
hard to
because
do
I
it.
lose track. That's not a critique, that's what we
No,
needed
I
to
know.
do.
Yeah.
But I was like, okay, I'll get to that later, and then there was more, and honestly, I just couldn't do it.
Yeah.
so if today's the 8th and we're aiming to have it finished by
When
the
can you
end of the month,
finish
if you can make the June meeting, then how much time do you need prior to, or when does it need to go to a week before committee? So like by June 1st?
I mean, if it was there Wednesday, the 4th or 5th, or, yeah, Wednesday, the 4th would be ideal, so they can turn it around for
So
themselves.
Amanda, you tell us how much time you need, and
Yeah.
then we go from
We'll
there.
back into that. So
Could we meet on the 28th?
Of May.
May the
moving
28th?
that day.
Oh, that sounds fine.
So I can't. I apologize, but
No,
I'm
no,
only
that's
one
fine.
person. You only need a quorum.
I'm in.
And now you have alternates, so you should have enough people.
I can meet.
Yay.
Okay, we have
I can
2,
meet.
3,
But
Yeah.
wait, what time?
Yeah.
anytime after 4:30.
And if we're doing it on Zoom?
Well,
In your car.
I was gonna say, can we do it at like lunch? Like,
Yeah.
does it have to be in the evening?
Well,
Roger, what about you?
well, I'm free.
You go.
I'm
1, 2,
retired.
3, 1, 2,
So
3.
Tricia's gonna
got
give
a
you
quorum.
half
Well,
of her calendar.
exactly.
So what time is good for you on the 28th? Could you do lunch?
No. I
12,
can't.
okay.
Okay.
Well, unless by
Okay.
lunch you mean 1
Can
o'clock.
you, are you
Sure.
available on the 28th?
Nope. I am on the evening, but
Okay.
it'd be like 6
Okay.
o'clock.
Okay, so sometime
I'm gonna
after
push
5
it
o'clock,
after the
Amanda, take your
time.
pick.
Push it after
6:30.
You got it.
Does that work for you? So we've got 1,
Yep.
2, 3, 4,
Yep.
5,
Um,
6.
Hold on.
So that's a quorum. And that, we don't even, we may have Alex as well. He could probably do Zoom.
I will be around.
So we'll have a quorum.
Now, what's the date? The 28th.
May 28th at 6:30.
Could we do 7?
Oh
my
God.
Okay. The 28th at 7.
I mean,
There'll be a
it'll
brief
literally
meeting,
be
right?
5 minutes, because
Yeah.
we will have all
Get on,
already reviewed the whole
call
thing
it.
and
Yeah.
agreed.
Vote it.
That's exactly
What
what it
about,
would be.
somebody, I don't know if it was Karen, Nick or Nicole, do we also need to take, before we vote, do we need to post it for public to see or anything like that?
And I
It's just
think,
like a
but isn't
regular
that-
meeting.
Isn't that what the ordinance committee does though, is they post the
well, we have
ordinance?
to
We're just
approve it in
reviewing
ours. We have to
Right.
post it to ours so that we can have it as part of our agenda online and then we can vote.
But we're not the ordinance committee though, so that's what I'm confused about. Like, even it's a suggestion that goes to them, don't they have to post the possible changes that they want to make to the town?
I think you guys should follow your normal procedure. I don't know if you actually provide
I think you
supporting
have to just
documents.
have a meeting.
I personally would
Provide our
recommend.
the time in our
Yes.
agenda, and then that's it.
Correct.
We don't post anything else.
Correct.
You're the queen of organization, so I believe you.
So then can you set up the Zoom meeting so that other people, anybody can get in?
Well, we can use the same link, right? Or
It
do you
gets
have to-
It gets
regenerated each
regenerated.
time.
I'll do it tomorrow or tonight.
Okay.
I would recommend posting it. I mean, we have to post the meeting. I think just due to the level of resident engagement, I think it would be important to post it. So residents have the time to look at it and then they have especially getting it out there before ordinance. And I think that's what concerned me now is I thought we had a version that had been circulating and that's why I was like, oh, let's go to ordinance. We have a close version, but it wasn't the exact one. And I also want to reiterate to the public, like, we're not making sweeping changes. You guys made all these changes. You had basically a final draft. We just never voted on a final draft because we lost staff. And I really want to fix that error for you guys and get this out of your hair so you never have to deal with it again.
But I
but
think there was a lot of drafts circulating that weren't necessarily from us, and that is adding a lot to the confusion. I think the drafts that were circulating were not ours, and they were making larger changes.
correct. I received
I
a
don't know where they
version
came from,
of the
but
ordinance that
I
was-
saw a version that I was like, this isn't what we.
Yep.
A lot of ours was cleanup, like definitions.
Yes.
Updated a
Yes.
little bit, because it just
Absolutely.
wasn't like, well, what is it? And we expanded them from dog to animal. That was sort of that representative of some of what we did. So it was really for clarity.
That was our goal, to make it clear.
Yeah, and I don't want to bog this board down. I understand that you guys spent a substantial amount of time last year doing this. Procedurally, Todd just never brought it back for a final vote, and I want to follow that procedure. So I apologize that we're kind of in this situation. I also am just trying to get as much done as I can while I remain your liaison.
Okay, so in summary, you're gonna set up a Zoom link. It's May 28th at 7.
Yes.
Once you can work through it, you'll share it with everyone on the committee. We can review and collect yes, no, yay questions. And then you will post that as well.
Just to manage expectations, if I finished it on the 26th, is that too close?
Nope.
in time?
Nope, we've already seen it. It's not new.
Okay,
Yeah,
just
it
want,
is, yeah.
just for the public part, I want to make sure it's.
You can give it to me at 6:59 on the 28th.
Right,
So
exactly.
it's fine.
Yep, yeah.
I'm not going to do that, but
At one point, we could probably quote it in
So
our
it's not
sleep,
6,
but then
it's
we
7.
shut that off.
Yeah,
and then
it's really the
you-
organization, but I wanted to
I know.
make sure.
7,
'cause
yes,
that
we
was-
changed it.
I know.
I think we felt very
Ellen
proud of
changed
that.
I changed
Yes.
it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Based on my personal.
Okay, moving on.
Okay, so that's done. New committee goals. So
Wait,
program.
I'm sorry.
I'm
Do
sorry.
you have any other updates, Karen?
No.
Good, great, moving on.
Programming. We wanted to sort of review what our revisit or go back to what our goals had been. And I think we talked last time about going back into sort of the programming. And we were going to target a couple areas of programming because that is such a large bucket. And I think we were doing young.
Yep, I can
Um,
tell you, in 1 second.
I think we
How
were
many years
focused-
ago did we decide?
3
years
I,
ago.
I
like-
do feel like it needs to be updated.
But it's not.
I mean,
it's
definitely
not-
programming, but I don't necessarily.
But it's not wrong, like I think the stuff that we targeted was because a lot of that stuff was non-existent. And I think it's still non-existent, so I think it's still
I think
relevant.
yes, I agree. It's still
The
non-existent.
3 areas were 0 to 6,
Yeah,
Mhm.
adult, young, active, and senior, and outdoor recreation and nature.
Mhm.
So what was the third one? Because that was a lot.
Adult, young, active, and senior.
actually, on that note, remember we had that big, huge, before you came, that big, huge report we got, I think it was Barry Dunn that did some sort
The
of
facilities
review.
master, or the master plan.
Yes,
Yeah.
and you were ticking things off. Are you guys still using that as
Oh,
a
yeah.
guide? So I'm wondering if that could be an outline for sort of inventorying some of the programming and seeing if there are still holes and then where we can fill in.
From a programming standpoint, don't quote me, I believe it was a little more generalized in the master plan. There was a lot of facility-based
Yeah.
requirements and needs and asks, but I can circle back. and-
I don't know that there was any, I mean, there was a little bit of program development, but a lot of it was all property and facilities.
And it's where it identified that we needed another
Yes. Yes.
position to support it.
So we have all of our immediate goals that we set, which was support the community center. We're working on that.
Do that, yeah.
Maintenance of facilities, the beach environment, volunteer recruitment, programming development, and staff professional development. So those are the things that we identified as the immediate need from 0 to 3 years. So I think we've done beaches, we're on hold with that for a while.
Got staffing.
Yep. And so the thing that was left was programming. So I think
Yeah.
this is what we've identified as an immediate need that we would need to address.
And just to touch on staff development, Todd had done a really good job within the operational budget of adding money into our annual budget every year for staff development, and it's something that we continue to use and continues to get allocated. We're sending people to local and national conferences. We're doing a really good job with that. So that is another area that's hit on.
Great.
So for our approach to programming, particularly if we're gonna focus on 0 to 6, should we take an inventory of what's there?
Zero.
first? There's nothing. I thought there were-
There's little tykes and little
There-
tykes baseball,
it's
little
not
tykes, mini
zero.
hoops, mini hoops.
Okay, it's like 0.5%. Okay.
You
Sorry.
can't speak in extremes.
No,
Yeah.
no, I'll keep it together. There is like 0.5% of programming for that particular age group. There was certainly recreational opportunities for all of the other age groups, but for that specific type in a time that identifies the needs of that particular group. So taking into consideration like nap times and feeding and stuff that's core for that age group does not currently exist in something other than maybe like Little Tykes soccer or something, which I feel only just started like this summer.
No, it's been
Or-
going on. My
Been going on
little
for a long
ones did it when they
Okay.
were little.
Okay. But other than that, there's nothing else for that age group at all.
I think the tough thing has been obviously staffing.
Yeah.
And we sneak those things in where Kramer is able to do them
Mhm.
because he is kind of our one and only. Other people have kind of their specialties, so you definitely will have more capacity when we have that new person.
When does the new person start?
It's
Is
a
that one of the ones that's
Post-July
hired?
1 position.
Was
We're
it-
hoping to hire for August.
Okay, so it's
is
not
our
hired
schedule.
yet.
Yeah.
They're not even posting it until July 1st.
Oh, okay.
And then using July to.
So
interview
this
and
is
stuff.
why this loops back to the,
Volunteer recruitment.
nope,
No.
senior advisory board.
Yeah.
So we were saying, if there's a senior advisory person dedicated to seniors, why isn't there one dedicated to
Mm.
children?
That's a great point.
There's just never been the staff allocation, right? You know, so this position is 95%, 90% recreation programming. That's everything from Little Tykes
Yeah.
to helping support, teens all the way up through.
So
Now,
the
we
new
do have
position is
Gail.
specific to under 18.
Yeah,
But it
Rosa.
doesn't.
Maybe.
mid-20s,
Okay, okay, because I agree that 0 to 6 is maybe lacking, but what I see when I'm driving around after school is a lot of kids hanging out in the library that don't want to be at the library.
Little,
Yes, and I think that's a big missed opportunity there. And when you compare, I mean, we've all said this a million times, and when you compare our community services to South Portland, Cape Elizabeth, Portland, we have, it's dismal. I mean, they're, and not just that, they're using a lot of so Cape Elizabeth has a sea kayaking fishing camp. They use Higgins Beach. Like they're using, and it's mind blowing. South Portland has something, they use Pine Point. Why aren't we doing those programs on our beaches? I've talked to Todd about it before. This is not a new idea.
Because
So-
we don't have the staff, there's no staff to support it, or there's not enough staff to support it.
How do the other towns
They
do
have
it?
the staff,
But how,
or,
but
or they have a volunteer base
contract.
and
They
they
contract
contract.
that's right. Why are we
Yeah.
against the contracting?
we're
law?
not against the contractual piece because it's really a high area of expertise as
Right.
well, right?
Like Sea Spray, I know does the Cape Elizabeth
Sure.
one.
Yeah,
Why
we-
aren't they doing one for our kids?
Well, one of the owners is instructors is a teacher at Cape Elizabeth High School, so that kind of helps. But
Yeah. Well, okay, so
minor
maybe
detail, yeah.
that's a bad
But he
example.
does it on his own, but there's no reason why he
He
wouldn't
couldn't do
contract.
it.
It's his company.
Right.
He'd do it elsewhere.
Well, and
Right.
we do.
Well,
do
elsewhere, they're
contractual
doing it on our
programs.
beaches.
A lot
Right,
of
but
our
I mean,
tiny
for
Yes,
us,
I know. I
and,
was being,
Other of those
right.
programs are contractual. We've recently started a new archery program. That's a contractual program
Mhm.
that somebody has expertise. We filled the first session with adults, almost full, and the youth. We weren't able to run the second session. There's a new adult one coming in June that we already have 8 or 9 signed up for. So we are starting to make a little bit of headway. But we obviously have a large room for.
here's my other gripe, and since we're just laying it out there, I'll just say it. As a parent, I have to decide on summer camps in January, not joking, January 4th, January 14th. The Scarborough town summer camps come out March. I missed.
April.
This
Yeah.
year is April.
I think you come out March, register April. Is that right? Like, I've already made my plan for the whole summer. I know, I get it, there's a lot going on, but I basically I can't chance like this year, I was actually planning on there being an art camp. I know, Nicole, I already talked about this for my daughter.
And just so you're aware, Steve reached out to, so our traditional practice has been, if there are teachers that are willing to do a program, we go with them first. So he did reach out to all the additional art teachers in town. There's just no takers. So you're
But-
right, that's where we would have benefited in having, say, like a contractual
Well,
person.
we still
The
can.
timing, I think.
But the-
maybe is
yeah, the
more
timing
the
is-
issue, Cause
yeah.
I would agree, like I signed Joseph up for 10 weeks of Fiddleheads on
Exactly.
February 1st,
Yes.
just in case.
Yes.
And then I have to go when the sports camp schedules come out and see if they can fill his spot.
Right.
So I can get my money back, so he can actually do this. I mean, we love Fiddleheads, but like do those sports camps, which he also likes, and it is moderately torturous.
It just excludes us.
So all the specialty camps, moving the sign up registration dates.
Yes.
or
Yeah, if you
Yes.
know the
not our general
information,
sign-up.
Yes.
even
yes.
March
That
one
is
would.
the toughest part,
yeah.
and.
Right,
Too
of
bad
course.
Kramer's not here to speak
Right.
about it, is
Yeah.
like, we put it out.
Right.
And we give a deadline, and our
And
people
people
are
are
not
chasing,
getting, yeah,
chasing.
it's a constant chase.
Yeah, I
So-
understand that, and I
Yeah.
appreciate all that he's doing. I just think there are opportunities.
Yeah.
If we can't figure out the deadline, that moving it up sooner, I think that it's just, we have so many resources that we're just not using. And then other towns, it's like a kick in the face. Other towns are using our natural resources and having these lovely programs. You can see the Cape kids being dropped off at the end of Higgins, doing like fishing, kayaking through Sea Spray. And then I've heard of the other. you
But
know.
I think going back to our other goal that we identified, volunteer recruitment, is I think even with a new staff person and contracting out, like if we help build up a volunteer base, we can then get volunteer people who are interested in art or who run an art business or something like that to run those art programs if teachers are not available.
But I don't think you can consider those volunteers.
No.
Because at that point, if we're
Right.
taking money, then,
Right.
Correct.
so
I have a hard,
maybe it's reframing what we call, like, expanding the network of expertise, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's
Yeah.
how I would view it, is like,
Yeah,
we need to find all those extra resources and bring in their expertise to offer
I
programming.
think you're talking two different things. I
But you
think,
can't get somebody to do it, like, we're not gonna get volunteers to do.
To run an art
HR
camp.
would be in arms about that, like, we're not gonna, you're gonna have a few people that might do something for free. That's how I see volunteer, when you say volunteer.
correct.
Yeah, okay.
That's what that's what I'm saying. You're
Yeah.
talking two different things. You're talking contractors or someone who will bring in something at like a very specific skill and do something like that, like with rec camp or something. Totally. That's one thing. But then no, a volunteer base who will come in and help set up and clean up the spring fling dance so
Yeah,
that you
correct.
don't have to bring in 5 staff to do that.
Correct.
do those
Yeah.
people exist?
They, well, I can't. speak
It's
on
very
that, but
finite.
No.
It's hard for me to imagine.
So I think if we were able to have, if we build up both of those things, if we get a contracted person and we get volunteers in to help with that, that takes some of the pressure off not having the staff be at every single activity. Like Nicole and I are BFFs because I go to every single
I
thing.
know.
Like, I know you don't want to be at every single thing. And
Right.
Like,
But I just, if I don't want to spend, and I'm open to ideas, I don't want to spend a lot of time on volunteer recruitment when we're not going to get any volunteers because people are spread so thin already, like calendars and things.
but I think you have to look at what the community consists of. What is the largest group that lives here?
Older people?
It's seniors.
Okay.
And if they're maybe not involved in the active community, maybe then there's other activities that we can get them involved in. Maybe they don't want to go with movies with a bunch of other 70-year-olds, but they want to hang out with preschoolers.
But
But
you're
you
not
don't
saying
know.
hang out, you're saying prepare for and then leave and then come back and clean up. Because then we have HR issues again if we're having, or we have talked about this in the past. I'm playing devil's advocate. But then we have to go through background checks and, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah, I mean, so does every other organization that has volunteers,
Mhm.
I think the point is that that doesn't currently exist. And I think it would be beneficial to the staff and the department to help them create it.
Okay.
Like,
I think that demographics question though is really interesting. So do we know, you said it was such authority, so it must be true, but do we know for sure, are we primarily older citizens? The reason I ask is maybe that's the issue, right? We're trying to find volunteers. And I think about like when my son's school tries to do it, we're begging people that are working to come in and volunteer their time when they probably can't, right?
Yeah.
But I'm sure we have somehow, or you all have access to, what are the numbers? Like how many people over the age of 60 are in Scarborough compared to those under the age of 20, for example?
looking, give
Karen's
me-
raising her.
23.7%, 65 years and over.
So I should have Googled this. as well.
Just real quick, it's the
No,
the
I'm
latest
teasing.
census.
Okay.
Karen?
I was just gonna say at the council meeting, someone was saying we have 40%, but I think we were talking about 55 plus. So I wanted to throw that out there.
But that's, I guess what I'm saying is in terms of what should we be focusing on?
That group.
If we have this significant percentage of older citizens, even though our children also obviously need things to do and all of the things, it can be, well, do we want volunteers? Well, great, here's where we try and tap into it. Or it's, you know what, we're probably not going to get any because we actually have majority of working like adults here. This is another maybe priority we need to shift our priorities. That's why I was asking. I think that's actually, I don't know why I haven't thought of that before. That's why we should be looking at that.
But I think you also can't, and discriminate is not the word that I want to use, but like when you're putting a thing out for volunteers, we're not specifically giving like, you can only volunteer if you're 55
No,
plus.
I
either,
meant more
too.
like,
But
don't waste your
yes,
time.
but I understand,
right?
right? But
Like,
I think generally though, when you put out a call for volunteers, like, yeah, you can maybe specifically target it in certain communications and times and
Yeah.
like that kind of stuff that maybe certain, like if we put it on like TikTok, like, yeah, the senior active community is probably not going to be checking that out, right? So you see who you get though. And, and I think a big portion of that though, is you never know unless you ask.
Yep.
Across the board, so.
Oh, absolutely.
So we could say like, what about the whole community of parents who have kids under 5 that are maybe not working or taking leave or something like that and want to do active activities, with
During
their
the day.
kids,
Yeah.
right? Like maybe we
They're,
do.
they're definitely both very different.
Yes.
Right? And they, while they have some relation to each other, in terms of programming itself, like building our volunteer base will help us with events and not enriching necessarily our programming. Our active efforts here is to enrich our programming, and we need to expand our network of contractual providers. We need to expand our internal network. So that's where my mindset is in terms of programming versus the volunteer base. I do think that we need to expand our volunteer base as well for various reasons, but they're two different scopes.
I agree.
And they're almost two different initiatives. Like for volunteers, we know that every volunteer says, I want to do this, and then I'm crossing it off my list. Like people want a finite, at least we're all busy, right? So tell me what event to show up on and then I'm done. So
I was just gonna say, I think before you even start a process, there
You
needs
gotta
to be an
identify.
inventory kind of,
right.
like, what are the opportunities?
Yeah.
And I just was saying cost benefit analysis, like if we're gonna put time into this, let's make sure that it's gonna.
Right.
So we have on the agenda for programming. So we all realize, I think that they're all tied in together. So, how can the committee help towards programming, taking into account a new rec person coming in, / understanding contracts or volunteer people?
So if we target programming first and do volunteer separate, because I do think volunteer is a whole nother project,
Yeah.
like communication strategy,
Yeah.
inventory of what needs to happen to best support you. But for this programming, if we target, right, because you've got someone coming in July, hopefully. How do we help you? Like, I hate to use this because Scarborough does a survey every other week.
We were just talking
We
about
were just,
survey
yeah, I was
before.
just gonna say, like, do we survey the
Yes.
parents of the 0 to 6, whatever that age group is, or like the kindergartners, because they probably have younger kids, like you glom them together. Do we do a survey and say, what do you need? What do you want?
I think that would be
That would be
the
most beneficial.
best service you guys could provide to us, is helping us form that survey, not making it like a 10 to 15 minute survey.
No.
Making
Quick
it,
and easy.
yeah,
5 to
exactly, but
7
to get an
minutes at
idea of
most, yeah.
what are the things that people want.
Google form with a QR code.
Because we
That's
can,
it.
we can throw out, we have a
Right.
list of ideas. It doesn't mean that's gonna run. It doesn't mean that's what this community wants. And we were already chatting about that needs to happen, so.
I literally
that's-
just suggested the identical thing at pastoral council at church of like, we need to do a survey to like these particular
Yeah,
parishioners to
we need
find
to
out
hone it in
X.
so we know
Yeah,
where to
rather
focus
than
our
general
efforts.
town surveys, because we've done
Okay,
this
so
four
that is
times.
something very tangible that this
Yeah.
committee can do.
Yeah.
So
One,
timing,
one other piece
suggestions.
around that, when we talk about that middle school age group, the hanging around in the
Yeah, I
libraries,
agree.
it's access, getting them here, getting them
Right.
anywhere other than that main complex.
Right.
How can we leverage
We should be able to
transportation?
use the
How can we
schools
leverage
for,
utilizing the schools and
right,
spaces within the
right. I mean,
kids?
maybe that's the goal.
Without them charging us.
Maybe the goal
Yeah.
is like figuring out how to get a space in the school so that the kids can walk.
And it
From the
certainly
middle
is something that library has even approached us
I'm
about,
sure,
because it's just this thing that like nobody knows what to do.
They
with
want
it.
a community center.
We don't have a community center close to that location, getting them here to the hub in
It's-
a
yeah,
very
you
small
can't- no,
space.
There are
that
things,
can't
there are
pack
programs you
Yeah.
can do at the school
Right.
sites and the kids don't need to go anywhere.
Right.
Like,
We need
for
access to
example, and
space.
so what about a laundry list too? Like I'm thinking Girls on the Run.
Yep.
Right, happens right on the campus. I was a coach, the kids didn't have to go anywhere. So how do we, that you have to work with them, but they're a nonprofit that wants to work with
They've actually
everybody.
reached out to us recently,
Good.
Oh, really?
The
about
school or
access.
Girls on the
Girls
Run?
on the Run.
Yeah, I think I'm still confused about why we have such a struggle with space after school so that the kids can go right there. Karen has some insight into this.
Sports is a huge.
Well, yeah, but not every classroom is taken up
Right,
with
Not classroom,
sports.
no, I was
Like,
gonna say, the gym space is insane to try and schedule for basketball and
I
everything.
wanted to speak to this because I actually brought it up in the budget season. I actually pushed the school and I said, because I think Nick went before the school and the school was there. And I said, you just heard Nick say that he has 46 kids on a waiting list for Blue Point. Someone came to our meeting last night and he said, my kid is on a waiting list for Blue Point aftercare. I mean, the parent, you can hear the anxiety in these parents.
Yeah.
And so I said to the superintendent, I go, why can't we have more space? They simply said, those are teachers' classrooms and we're not giving them. Like, she didn't say that, she goes, that is their space. I disagree with that.
Is that true across
No,
all
but it
school
is, now that
districts?
you're saying that, when I was a coach, we could not
It
meet in
depends.
anyone's
Yeah.
room. We had to meet in like the foyer outside or
Yeah.
in the like the
It's about,
entryway. We
it's
could
about
not go in the
addressing your
classrooms.
community's priorities. So as a town counselor, you have a parent who, this is your student, but yet your student, you cannot provide aftercare for. I personally, they have teachers on carts, but then they're saying you can't use our classroom to help accommodate our community. I just wanted you to understand, they will not let us in the classrooms.
Well,
So-
okay, then the gym or
I
the
was
library, the
gonna say,
learning
there's
commons,
cafeteria.
Public
the
areas.
cafeteria.
Public areas, exactly.
Yeah.
We were in the
They're
entrance
at
hall.
capacity.
What space is currently used for aftercare right now? Is it only the cafeterias?
Yeah.
The cafeterias, Wentworth, we have
Depends
one
on
more
the school, like
classroom.
Wentworth, we have one additional or two additional spaces, one,
One additional
yeah,
space.
the cast.
Even at Wentworth, just to like underscore how much of this is needed, the clubs fill up, the Wentworth
Correct.
clubs fill up so quickly.
Mhm.
Everyone is looking for a spot for their kids to go immediately after school where they don't have to go pick them up and drive them somewhere else. For example, from the school campus to the hub.
Right.
I think one of our priorities should be getting space, figuring out how to get space at the school, access. So we can't use classrooms. That makes sense to me. I understand that. But there is still the learning commons. There's the library, which Wentworth is the same thing, but gyms, there's cafeterias. I mean, it's not being used. All those spaces are not being used by,
So we
I
have
mean,
two
the learning-
issues,
The gym.
access
right?
and the
To
programming.
these.
Like you need someone
Oh,
to
true.
instruct
But
and
not- is it
manage.
every
So
day?
I firmly believe that between leveraging contractual services and our internal capacity.
Yeah.
If we had space, we could do that. We don't have a community center. It limits our space.
Yeah.
So we could bring a staff person over to Wentworth or to the middle school or different areas, running a club or, any different program. That is a big issue that we have.
That
Well,
should be
and
our
because of
priority
the
then.
multiple
getting to that.
locations, I mean, that's hard for staffing too.
But that's only
Yeah.
K to 2.
Yeah.
Because you've all seen them. It's the 3
tweens.
plus that have nowhere to go. And
Yeah.
if we're gonna be a community that supports our kids, we need to figure this out. Look at the news. They need to get off their screens and they need to do something in person with their peers. Like, let's stop talking about this and let's make this a priority for, I mean, because it feeds into our other priority. I don't want to get off, sorry, Emily. I don't want to upset you because you're the
I'll
teacher.
never record
I know,
anything ever again.
I know. So why can't we make access a priority?
It should be, in my opinion.
All right,
Access, and that holistically includes whether it be transportation or, space, have anything to deliver access to a program.
because you're saying we can do the programming, we can get the contractors, but we don't have the space.
And that's the same for school age as well as 0 to 6? Or is there, are there?
Well, I
separate-
think
0 to
you're
6
talking
isn't
more
even
like
there. They're not
5
even,
to
it's
6,
a totally
but-
separate thing.
We have the ability for the 0 to 4 age group to try to find alternative programming, within our own capacity or contractually.
Okay,
Whether it be here at the hub or, utilizing some other space, but
I think the one with that one is where that survey would come in. We want to
Yes.
know what
you want us,
the parents of that age
In
group
what
are looking
times?
for and their ideal times, ideal
yeah.
days.
Okay, so to kind of get back on track a little bit, we specifically went through the giant list on the board of all of the different types of programming, because we talked about middle school and high school and adults and other stuff, and we specifically targeted these 3 types of programming: 0 to 6, adult, and outdoor rec. So do we want to start with 0 to 6, and do we want to first talk about a survey to create a survey to send it up to the 0 to 6 parents?
No, I think those
You
goals
got
are
the beach,
outdated.
give me this.
it needs to be.
well, I'm wondering.
I think those goals need to be updated. What
The
did you say?
goals.
Well,
Yeah,
no, I mean, I agreed. I think they need to be updated, but I do think programming is still staying there. I'm hearing 0 to 6 is still an issue
Mhm.
and middle school is the next issue. So
Can
maybe
we
we
do both?
reorder.
Middle school
Yeah.
wasn't even on here at all.
I know, but it's emerging now with the whole school situation as
and the
So
lack
are
of a
we-
continual lack of a community center.
Are we adding it and, in addition to this, so we have 4 now, or are
No.
we taking something away?
Or can it be a sub?
Sub, yeah.
A sub of what? 0 to
Can
6,
you say
adult or
like
outdoor rec?
targeted youth programming? You got
Yes,
This
yeah.
one and this one.
Yeah,
And then
perfect.
the sub bullets, if you will,
Yeah.
are the different
And
age
we're
groups.
good,
Yeah,
we're
perfect.
okay right now in between. Like,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Like 0 to middle school seems
Yeah.
like that's what it
No,
would be. And then,
no,
and then
because
the
it's
sub-
it's totally different.
no,
because-
but then going into the sub level
Right.
of 0 to 6.
Oh, you're saying
And then
the
middle
big
school.
goal is
Yes, the
that,
big
and
goal
then- yeah,
is,
yeah, yeah.
we're talking about, instead of adding another one, just going from 0 through
Right.
middle school.
Right,
And then the subsection of 0 to 6, which is there,
yeah.
and then the middle school.
So are we
age.
saying 8th grade?
I'm just going,
I think we need to start somewhere. We could probably improve programming across the board. You've done a lot for the outdoor recreation. I consider that beach. I consider that all the fields. You've done that. We kind of checked some
Well,
of
and I
those off the
think
box.
we are headed more in that direction with the Rangers having those ranger
Right,
stations
and the
doing
pickleball
nature
courts, and
programming.
so we're kind of making you're making progress on that, so maybe we do need to refocus more on programming and shuffle it up a little bit. So still do those, and you've got a new person coming on, so it's perfect timing to be doing this.
I mean, we can certainly develop it more. I mean, we could just pick 0 to 6 and start there, and then figure out if we want to add in other groups and how we want to do. So maybe if we decide that we want to do a survey for 0 to 6 and we get feedback, or we decide we want to do a different way, and then maybe we each take you take middle school group, and I take 0 to 6, and Amanda takes high school or something like that, and we take different approaches and get feedback that way, and then develop other tangible action items from there.
I know from my standpoint as the director of the department, I want more information, not a segmented information. I don't want just 0 to 6. I want as much as I can because I want to implement as much as we can. I know we have to have focus areas,
Yeah.
but we have to think about the whole community as well. We can't just focus, we can focus on each of them, like he was talking about in the subsets. In our minds, we're concentrating, through 8th grade. And then collect data in areas that we can improve and try to enrich and in those areas, and know that we have large gaps, 0 to 6, and that data should support it. I guess I don't understand why we would just pick one group to focus on.
Because all of the, All of the other age groups have much more significant current programming available. There is aftercare for them, there is summer camp, there is sports, there is programming that goes on during the day, or you know what I mean? Like other types of programming for 0 to 6, except for like Little Tykes, which is like one thing that happens during the summer. There is no other programming available for this age group for the rest of the year at all. That's why I'm passionate about this and completely biased because I have a 3-year-old.
And so,
No, I was just gonna say, so if we move to the survey, which it sounds like you're looking for, you want a more comprehensive survey on what what people want.
Not necessarily comprehensive. It can have focuses, but I think the more data we have to help us support actually activating programming in those age groups helps us. It doesn't hurt
Yeah, I mean,
us.
couldn't it be formed where you're widespreading it, you're gonna get your data and you still could synthesize for your younger population, you
I
know?
think that it would, in order to ensure more responses,
I agree.
I think that people need to receive what I'll call like a directed survey, and it may be something technologically someone knows how to do better than I, but just I'll do an example, just because I dealt with this recently. So at church, we wanted to do this, right? And we wanted to target people in a certain age group that have children of a certain age. And so the parish has the ability through whatever their case management system, that's the court, whatever their management system is, that they can say, all right, these parishioners have kids in this age, check these boxes, these people get the survey. So I think in my mind, and this might be way too much work, but in my mind, it would be, okay, we want to know what does 0 to 6 need. And so we would send a survey to those people that would only be a survey about that issue, but we would also send a survey for then 6 to 12 or whatever, and have it be not very long, very directed. It may even be it's the same questions in the surveys. What I guess in my mind, what I was hoping to stay away from is just this general, hey, fill out the survey because community service wants some feedback. A lot of people, even people with kids who have ideas or concerns, are gonna be like, that sounds overwhelming, I'm not gonna do it. So my only thought was, was to do, we definitely hit all the different groups so you get the answers, but have it done in a way that you're getting answers in this category and then in this category, and then you do the analysis. Is that?
Yeah.
Is that
And we
possible?
have that
Is that
capability
possible?
to
Okay.
target
Okay.
your,
I was gonna say,
whatever you want.
is there a way to partner with the schools, the elementary schools, talking about the 5-6 age groups? They must be doing something that's, especially when we're talking about clubs and going into middle school, and the middle school clubs filling up and all of that. They must have an idea of what the kids and what the parents want to do. They must have some sort of way, either through conversations, maybe not a survey, but that might be a way for us to partner with the schools if they're looking for similar information, to just bring that piece in it as well. Because I've seen that work with community services and rec and all that with the schools. I've seen that work.
You mean the survey would come from the schools?
Potentially. So it would be something that the schools would be able to use, but we would be able to piggyback on something instead of the schools are going to send one, the town's going to send one, the community service group's going to send one, this group's going to send one. No, we're going to do one that is pretty targeted and partner with, if it's the town for the older population, if we were doing something, or for the younger population, the schools. Which school age are we going for? What parents? Maybe we can partner with them.
What about the
Yeah.
0 to 6-year-olds that are not in school yet?
That is,
That's
that's a different ballgame. I'm saying using the resources we already have and trying to piggyback instead of adding additional,
For
because you
them.
would have to add 0 to 4 or 0 to 5 or whatever.
Right.
We have to go after them somehow.
Yeah.
We're gonna do that anyway.
Mm.
But if we can piggyback and not send, because you're right, there's survey after survey that happens in every community, just surveyed out. And it's like, I just did one, I'm not gonna do
Do you
one.
think it would, in this vision, would it come from the school or just the content of the survey would include school information? And I'm completely
that's-
biased in asking because my son doesn't go to Scarborough Public Schools, he goes to Holy Cross.
Mhm.
But I'm thinking there's also a significant homeschool population. So all I'm thinking is we just want to make sure that families like mine or like homeschools also answer, because they may
Right.
have needs. I mean, they may not care about what happens inside the school building, but they have needs within the community. So just to make sure we hit all the
Yeah,
populations.
whatever it, I
Yeah.
don't have the answer
Yeah.
as to what it will be. I'm just looking at a way that we could try to cut down on the amount of surveys that go out
Yeah,
and
definitely.
partner together with the,
I think that's a good idea. My hesitation again is this partnership with the school keeps coming up and we don't seem to have
I was just thinking that
the
too.
partnership that we would like to have that other communities have.
and I'm
Um,
biased because I spent 12 years doing this. in
So you're gonna
Gorham.
write
Do
the
we have
surveys.
great
That's what I
for
just
you?
heard.
can go in there.
I'm not about writing the surveys, but I've worked with
Or
the
not
school
data,
committees.
access to families' contact information to send them out stuff?
Through the school? No.
They won't.
I
That's
don't
why,
think the
that's why I'm
school
saying
will-
partnering with the schools,
It's
that
a
was
part-
my.
so
But I think the
I guess
content
we
of the
would
survey,
foresee it
you know.
as almost like we have courtesy posted a survey for the schools. It's not ours, right? We're doing that. Our hope would be that, like, it would also be shared through the schools. If you're targeting middle school, can you please send this to all your people? So they wouldn't outright give us a contact list.
Right.
No, I'm talking, does community services happen?
A contact list?
Of anybody that's registered for our program.
Anybody that's been in our programs or signed up for our newsletters, or we also have the town e-newsletter that we can send it through.
Right, so what about like when the town does a survey, the town obviously has access to all the citizen information. Do we have that, can we get that one?
I'm unsure whether they actually have
We can-
contact, the
that's
only
what we
contacts I'm aware they have are those that signed up for the e-newsletter.
Well, no, everybody got the master service or the master plan survey, right? That one, not the school one.
Oh,
Remember, everybody got like a copy of that one in the mail.
Oh,
Right.
you're talking about snail mail.
no.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But both, I think,
don't know.
either.
I wonder if it's just as simple as like you pay your property taxes and you get linked to like an online Scarborough.
I know
account or
at one point,
something.
like, we
Yeah.
were allowed to use voter reg
But now you
records to
can't.
send to, like, we wanted to target, like,
Yeah.
we wanted to send brochures to seniors. And at one point it was allowed and it is not allowed
Since-
anymore.
Hmm.
But maybe something has changed or.
And on the school,
That's-
on the school side, without getting the parent, because I'm quite positive they will not give us
Definitely
that
not.
information.
Right.
But they send out their own stuff, so individual middle schools, when they're sending out newsletters or whatever to their parents.
Yeah.
They could, hey, important, this is part of the community is trying to put this together and have whatever survey we were to come up with as part of that. So that's where I'm saying the partnership is trying to get that so that we're not trying to get all that
reinvent the wheel,
information.
basically.
And they're not giving out the information, they're just making their parents aware, and the parents that click, we may get a better.
Yeah, we
click-through
add it to the
person.
newsletter because the
Correct.
newsletters are long and they have like, this is a PTA update and this is a, make sure you take the school survey and make sure you take the community services survey. I think what this all goes back to is a better relationship with the schools.
Mhm.
How do we,
Well, we talked about way back, remember, when we talked about volunteer, the parents associations. Are they,
Oh, yeah.
we were gonna like reach out, no, I don't know how active or not active they
I
are.
I
know
think the
some people that
primary
are
is
online,
active,
yeah.
but I think that's kind of, I mean, Wentworth has one,
Yeah.
and then that's it.
I
Middle
think
school
one of
doesn't have
Joseph's
one.
friends' moms is
There's no
heavily
PTA in
involved
middle
in that. Cause I see
Correct.
like social
Really?
media.
Yeah.
posts about
What
it.
about
I
high
assume
school?
it's heavily- yeah,
The
that's
primary
true.
schools have one,
Unless it's
um,
just too many.
primary
people.
PTA, yes.
Okay.
And then Wentworth has one. It's not as active as,
As you go to middle school and high school, they,
yeah, it's
It
gone.
drop off
does.
We could
dramatically.
start one,
'Cause the
Yeah.
kids don't care.
no, the.
but they don't have
parents
one.
don't show up.
They talk about boosters.
I'm not there yet, man.
That's a
I'm
whole
in like
class
6
too.
years, talk to me.
Yeah, but no, they don't have one now, but
Okay.
Okay.
I think we need to explore the relationship. I think,
So, okay. I think we are all on the same page that we need to be able to utilize volunteers and kids and information stuff with the school, in addition to like other things within the community. And I think as much as this tickles me, that I know Trisha, you hate this of doing a survey.
No, I'm fine with it. I mean, I'm hearing that we just have
Yeah,
so
I don't
many,
e- I'm
so
not
I'm
sure about
fine.
surveys
But I think
either.
if
I'm
it's
just gonna put
targeted
it
though,
out
it's not
there.
that bad, because there's a really big
Agreed.
difference between like a giant
Right.
6-page master
Yeah, I'm
facility
fine.
survey and like a 5-question, what do you want your kid to do in town survey?
I'm
Big
absolutely
difference.
fine, and I,
So-
so it's more the logistics, but if we take a step back, we need to design the survey first.
Yes, I was gonna say,
So how do we help you? Do you, how does it work? How would it help for you to do
I
that?
guess I just want to step back to, have we done surveys before? And do we know what our response rate is that we get on them and what the actual?
like you're gonna have to,
We
like
as I
our
said, not the
group
group,
or
yeah.
the
I
town
guess
or
our
community
group, like,
Our
is
services?
group has it.
is
We've never
the-
done one.
okay.
Great question.
Yeah,
That's what I'm
never-
trying
That's
to
a very good
understand, like, is the
question.
juice worth the squeeze here? That's where
Yes.
my brain.
But
is
that's
like,
what we can
that
find
was
out though, because if we do it and we get no
I just didn't know if
response,
we've never
then
done
we
it.
need to.
What if we
I
get a
think
great
this
response and it
hasn't,
says,
but
oh, I want all
my
these,
hope
because when I
is
talk
if
to
it's like a
parents,
directed
they
one,
say,
we might
how come
actually
South
get
Portland has
more.
figured this all out? How come Cambridge has figured it out? How come Portland?
percentage.
So let's say the survey is accurate of my friend group and they say, we want this, we want this, we want this. Then what? We don't have any space. Like, what?
But
So
that's what we as a committee can help the
And
community
that's
services
the
figure
data that
out.
we
Never do one
compile,
again.
and we
Yes.
try
It's
to
like,
market
yeah.
the
Community,
for
community center.
No, I think it's a
Yeah.
really good question.
So we
Bolsters
compile that
or-
data, like, okay, 50% of the parents in this community want X number of programs in the middle school. We have no space. This is why we want a community center. And
Mhm.
that's the marketing pitch when you go for the community center.
but in,
So the data is valuable, even if we can't respond right
Well, and
now.
the data is, I guess, when I look at the data, like what's the if 5 people answer, do we say okay, we're gonna move forward because 5 people
We need
answered,
to
or
know the
what's
percentage,
the
right,
percentage we
yes,
wanna
right,
take
yeah.
to make action on?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, so I think just to start, we need to do a
We do need to do a
design.
survey.
I think we need to break it down into 0 to 6 years, K to 4th and 5th through 8th.
Say that again?
0 to 6, age.
doesn't Wentworth go to 5th grade, but like if we're talking about school stuff, maybe
Yeah, I
do
wonder-
that one to 5th.
and kindergarten
We
throws
usually
off.
do like in our programs, it'd be K to 2, 3 to 5, 6 to 8, but obviously you also have that subset of pre-K.
Do we want to follow the
0
school?
to
I know your
I
child is
was
not
only
in
asking
school.
so that if people are talking about space and after-school activities, that would match like the buildings they're in. That was the only thing I was thinking. I don't actually.
So what do you
could
want,
we
K
do
to 3?
Pre-K, could we do pre-K, K2, 3, 5, or 3, 6?
No, because pre-K doesn't include 0 to 3.
Well, could you say 0 to 4?
Yeah, like 0 to, that's what I'm saying,
Yes,
like,
and then, because then it's kindergarten.
right.
So 0 to 4, pre-K to 2nd?
No,
No,
0
K
to
to
4,
2.
5 to 2nd
Are we
grade.
going age or
I
grade?
think you gotta go with age, if you're gonna have 0 to 4.
I think it's
then
age.
goes
Yes.
from
Okay.
there.
So then it
Okay.
would be
So
5 to
0
8.
4,
Yeah,
5 to 8.
8 to 12,
I don't
What's
know,
8th
because
grade?
everyone,
8th grade is
13
13.
or
13.
14.
Yeah, 14 by the
Depending.
end.
So let's stay consistent. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, that's 5. So then 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So 5 to 9. And then 10, 11, 12, 13, 14.
There you go.
So 0 to 4, 5 to 9, 10 to 14. So little, middle, taller.
but can we have the school collaboration conversation in parallel to this, is what I'm asking,
Why wouldn't
because
we?
yes, so.
I just want to be clear that that's, like, we're
Yeah,
not
of
waiting
course.
for the survey to come back, because I think that's a larger conversation.
So the first, we have to take in steps. So the first thing that we need to do is design
survey.
the questions of what we
Yeah.
want it to look like, and then we can talk about the
Right.
method of how we're gonna get it out to
Right.
everybody, to, post it and share it and get it out. And then when we get information back, then we can look at what the results are. And that alone is gonna take months.
I know,
And
but
to
that's
your
not in
point, if you're
parallel.
only at 5,
Yeah.
then
what's
the next
response
step
rate?
is, do we need to dig more? Are these just 5 very vocal people? So I don't know that we make any conclusion until we maybe take one more step after that.
We also need to take into consideration that it's summertime and schools are not gonna be communicating much with kids also, so.
So
if
our
we're-
email will stand out.
It'll be the only thing.
They'll be bored and want a survey answer.
Well, you've got a captive audience in your summer camps.
Mm.
350.
I mean, daycares alone, like, are also captive audiences
Yeah.
for, stuff, we have Catch Ivan in at Catcha that we can get campers in
Yeah.
preschool there, so.
So that's the next step. Let's stick with the survey because I'm getting overwhelmed here. Designing of the survey, we can figure out, everyone has great ideas about how to get it out. Designing the survey. I think a lot of it, Amanda, you made a very good point. There's a lot of the same questions.
Mhm.
And we don't want too many open-ended questions because people aren't gonna fill them out.
No, they like choices.
Right.
Yeah.
So how should we all take a stab? Do we want to divvy it up amongst the committee? Like everybody pick an age and then bring it together, bring it to you?
Well, I think if we're gonna keep similar questions for each thing, it's just I mean, it's not simply, but it's just a matter of maybe like color coding them different things per age group.
Yeah.
I'm happy to,
Could do like a Google sheet or something that's like,
Yeah.
here are the questions we could ask every age group, and then here's ones that might be specific.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm happy to start it going and pass it out to everybody.
Right.
Yep.
Thank
Create a
you.
Google sheet.
And I think we just need to be aware of, you might have people that want to answer for multiple age groups, so don't ask them the same questions. for
I
the
wanna
same
know if
age
there's a
group.
technology way to like
Like if then,
force.
if this, then.
Well, I
this,
was
if-
even gonna say, like, if the
do
first
that.
question says, so like, we have this when we have to like evaluate judges, you like, pick the judge, do you know them personally or professionally? And then it takes you to different lists
Yeah.
of
Right.
questions.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know if we're
We
that
do
high
that.
tech.
We
It's like
have a
Survey Monkey we use
survey
all the time at
software.
work, and that does it
Yeah.
all the time.
Yeah,
You
if
can
there
do
was a
if
way
then.
to
Oh, so
say.
even if we have a
created-
software that branches, so like
That's
if you
what-
answer
yeah.
yes, it goes,
Yeah.
if you answer no, it goes this way, so.
But
Because
so
you
we-
could have it,
Oh,
be-
so
and
we
you could have
essentially
a
just
thing
need to
at the
create the
end,
questions for
We
you
just
and
need
then
the
you can.
questions
Oh,
and
well,
how it will branch, and then we can.
but you
Oh,
could have
well, I
it
can do
like.
that
Bring
right
the
now.
draft
I know,
and Have
that's-
you guys look it through.
Oh,
But if
Like
you
we
have it
actually
where it's
test it
like,
out.
click the age
Mm.
group you're answering for, so let's say it's 0 to 6, at the end, would you like to answer the survey for another age group? No, thank
Right,
you.
right.
Yes, it takes you back to
Yep.
the
Right.
beginning.
That-
That's like in my
to
head
your
what I'm
point.
Yeah.
envisioning.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Because they might have different responses for each age
Right.
group. If they're answering for
Yeah, yeah.
0 to 4 and say, I want more, you know, mommy and me classes, but then they're answering for, not that we're doing high school, but you know, if they're answering for a 12-year-old, they might say, I want more pickleball courts for my 12-year-old or whatever.
But I like your point because your response rate is gonna drop if you make them sign out and then sign
go
back
back
in.
in,
Yeah,
Yeah,
we gotta
that will
keep it
drop.
as
Right.
easy as.
Yeah.
possible.
So one survey, I don't know if anybody's heard of it, I was looking it up because I couldn't remember what it is, called Thought Exchange. It's something that I've used in the past over in Gorham. Basically what it does is it's a survey. You have kind of primers, but then people can put in their own thoughts. And then other people can review those thoughts and they agree with them or disagree
Oh,
with them.
wow.
And what we found going through that way is not only was it a increase in the number of respondents, but a dramatic increase in not only respondents, but also comments on, you know, you pick up somebody, we want to do the sea kayaking. There's 500 people that, you know, five stars or whatever on that one that they like that. So, and it breaks it down. I know there's a cost to it.
Mm.
So,
Yeah.
but that is something that used quite a bit because people were getting sick of surveys and it's like, okay, geez, I wish we could have asked this, or there's bound to be people out there that have their own thoughts and ideas. So it could also gather, well, geez, I want sea kayaking. I want this, I want that. You know, we'll get that as well. And then community members can just go in and it doesn't take long. You can just sit through and you can get through 50 ideas real quick and just click, yep, I agree, I disagree, I'm kind of neutral with it and do it that way. It gives such a much more detailed response that you can really break down into different.
Nicole and I should
strategies.
vet and take a look into it, you know, not sure if it's an annual subscription or if it's a one-time usage thing, but we'll take a look at it.
Yeah.
And the
If you have
cost would
questions
be,
on that.
I was gonna say.
Yeah, I'm remembering back, there was an annual cost that the school bought into to be able to use it.
Is it thought exchange?
Arguably, since the
Thought
town does
exchange.
so many surveys, it might be a worthwhile investment, seriously,
Yeah.
not just for you guys or.
And if you needed to talk to anybody about it from like the schools in Gorham, the superintendent Heather, I know very well. And then the superintendent in Kate, I worked with him when he was a assistant superintendent in Gorham and the high school principal. So if you needed any contacts or conversations about that, I know that Dr. Record and Cape Elizabeth and
I was
Dr.
saying,
Perry
pay
and
for subscription
Scarborough
now, but
were-
if this
right.
one works better, then.
Oh, you already
It's
have
just-
a subscription.
That's what
We
she's
do, but
saying is
not
they
to
they
that one
already
in
have a
particular,
survey.
so if.
it may just be worth it to, not just for this, but
Right,
for
for
anything
anything.
else. Because the number of responses and then comments or ratings
Yeah.
was just incredible as to what people wanted.
Okay, so,
Sorry.
no, I think
That's
that's a great
helpful.
suggestion.
Yes,
Super helpful.
It feels more exciting now, survey.
Yes. And you might
You'll
get,
say,
It's a gamified,
and
yes,
people
yes.
are engaged.
Yes,
It's not just
That's
filling
what it
out,
is, it's
and
an
then if we
engagement.
ever do get to our volunteer
We will.
aspect,
It'll happen.
they've already engaged with us in a
Right.
more meaningful way than just click A, B,
yeah, and you
C.
can track through it and say, for 0 to 6,
Right,
wow, look what came to the top. Look what either they do the word cloud and all that stuff, and you can see all that and break it down, or the highest rated, lowest rated, see what people like.
okay, so I think that we've put a stake in that horse.
In that same thing, I'm looking back in my lifetime and how we even survived compared to what you guys, that you have to have something programmed for all these kids.
Yeah.
I mean, I was, no, wait a minute, I was brought up, my first year in school, grade school, was 1950.
Oh, you're aging yourself.
Yeah, I'm not 80 years old guy, but I don't know, I mean, we did things together in the neighborhood, but my question here to this group is how much does the school do for us?
The school building, are you talking
No,
about?
no,
or
no,
this-
I'm just, no, you couldn't use the school buildings over
Oh,
there.
no, I mean, I was,
But I mean, the gyms, yes, you could, and so on and so forth, so forth. We had programs for that, even when I was growing up. But what do they supply now? I mean, are
That's
they
the
now in the primaries getting the 3 schools together to do something?
Are you talking about like programming?
Or
Like
They-
whatever
they
they might
offer-
be doing.
they
School
offer-
program.
If they have an art program.
it's a
in-
babysitting
at-
though.
at-
It's not
at
like
one
they're doing
school,
art after school
Are
and
you
the,
bringing the other
primary.
kids that may want that same art program?
But
Yeah.
the problem is that everything is full. So
Well,
even though the school, right,
Even though they do
no, because
clubs.
at K2, they're not doing art clubs.
Mm.
They're doing, it's strictly, I mean, I don't want to downplay what you're doing, but it's babysitting.
It's
It's
childcare.
childcare, thank you.
Yeah.
That's the word.
That's
Yes.
us, though. You're
Yes.
asking what is
In
But the
that-
school doesn't do
No,
art clubs or
no.
choir clubs or,
But now you're looking for parents or somebody to do all of this stuff,
Mm.
but you're forgetting the old guys. I think in the survey, you've got to ask,
that's
how
what
many
we
of
were
us
talking
can do?
about, yes.
I mean,
Yeah.
I love to play golf,
This is the first time hearing this. You might be playing golf with my son this summer.
that's fine.
Where do you go? Where is he gonna
I'll
go?
play golf with you,
Well,
Roger.
Yeah.
I like to go.
Yeah, I bet Roger has some good places to
So
go.
that circles back to where we started, right? The senior group wants to get more involved.
That's
Right.
what
Well,
I
that's
said.
the- but
So
there's no
thing I said.
mechanism to talk to them.
I know that, but well, see, I think what-
Emily's gonna get on it.
one thing we could, well, here's one thing, we've got programming on our potential agendas. Why can't we invite someone from that group
We
to come
absolutely can.
and talk to us, and as we go down the list of programming focus areas, we're covering them all, Emily. As we go down the list, so let's say in September, we want a representative from the senior group.
But not to
Um,
talk about senior programming, to talk about volunteer.
Well, that's what
opportunities.
I'm
talking about
saying.
volunteer.
Or,
Yeah,
or kind
okay.
of both.
Yeah.
I think you have to give them the
Right,
floor
right.
to say, hey,
Sure.
we like to do some of this,
Now,
but we'd also like to do, so you could kind of do both, and that could be the agenda. That could be the one agenda item
Yeah.
for that meeting, and we killed 2 birds with 1 stone.
But my wife is very involved with the plovers. Everybody knows that. But she also has 50 volunteers helping her now around the
Bird
clock.
watching. They
Bird
know
watching
birds.
around the clock
Kids.
and making sure that the dogs don't
Yeah.
go into the
Yeah,
areas or chase them down when they're in there.
we
and
used to
something.
do the
But-
same
but
thing,
the
we have all
thing-
these trails. She
The
would be
thing
perfect.
is that she was out there walking and talking to people, and first thing you know, gee whiz, I'd like to do that too.
Right.
Well, Jamie's in charge of a
I
lot
know.
of.
It does,
Yeah.
it
We
does.
need to get Glennis here to teach us how for volunteer
Well,
recruitment.
but
I'm
you're
not
right,
joking.
and that raises a good point too,
Yeah.
because I remember when we talked about this, we've got the Audubon and we've got the land trust. And I know when my kids were little, after school, they'd walk across the street, thankfully it was access, so, and there would be volunteers from the land trust that would take them all after school. Like
Yeah.
every Tuesday, you would do the trail walks. That's your point, so I would suggest
Programming.
you do that. Let's do it in September or whatever, November, whatever we choose to meet, and it would be volunteer, hit that, and we'll do seniors. I think that's a great idea. But
Two
let's
words.
stick to this, let's.
So
stick with
right,
the
so right
survey.
now, we're talking about programming 0 to age 14. We're gonna break
We'll
it
do
in.
the survey.
We're gonna do the survey for them. I will head it up, send it out to everybody to review.
Yep,
And then that's where we're gonna start with programming and go
Right.
from there.
right.
So our next meeting is scheduled for July 10th. I have a note in here that says to skip or do the meeting via Zoom.
If we're having an
Well,
extra
we're meeting on
meeting,
the 28th of
yeah,
May. Does
May
that count?
28th, I think that should count to Amanda's.
It's gonna be like 3 minutes, but
Oh.
like, it's not gonna be like a meeting meeting.
Well,
hearing you
that's
wanna meet.
my question. Never mind. Okay, yeah, so
Say
it'll be
it.
a short meeting in July, in June. So do we? or
No, May,
I'm
28th,
sorry, May,
yeah.
yes. So do we, so if we skip July, then we're looking at our survey in September, then do we go to November for the senior group?
I mean, we can still, communicate via email and stuff and send it out if we feel that it's ready before then. We don't necessarily need a meeting
That's
for that.
Yes,
Um,
agreed.
but I think we also should be cognizant of the fact that we only meet every other month and it takes so stinking long to do everything because
Right.
we only meet every other
Right.
month. So like if we wanted to use the time over the summer to ask because not everything else is going on and give people 3 months to fill it out,
Yeah. We need
that
to,
might be good.
Do we think the survey is a heavy lift?
If we create that Google sheet and
Well,
it's so
she
easy
said that they
to.
already have the software, so all we have to do is create the
Right.
question.
That's what I'm
Either the
saying, I
software
meant
we have
like
or
just a list of
We'll
questions.
be
Well,
researching
look
that
into-
one. to
Okay,
see if
so
that's
let's-
feasible.
Yeah.
is it reasonable, once you set up the Google Sheet, Emily, is it
Yeah.
reasonable for everyone to drop in questions in the next 3 weeks?
Yeah. Why don't we say this? Why don't we make a goal to have the survey go out before or by the July 10th meeting? And then we decide maybe as we get closer if we need to make it, because the reason that we usually skip it is because half of us are out and we can't make it.
I was gonna say, and sending it, I guess my thought was sending it out once like school is done, people have
Mhm.
taken a deep breath, July 4th festivities are done, like sending
Yes.
out after that might be when people actually are like, I'll answer this when I see the page. That sounds great.
Yeah, yeah. And then it'll give them like almost, and then if we keep it open, I don't know, until like
Till school starts.
Labor Day, yeah, I was gonna say that's like 2 full months, so.
Okay, so July 10th is not a meeting? Where did we live?
We're not sure.
I think,
Okay,
I think,
July
I think
10th is
TBD, yeah.
Probably
We could
not.
decide on May
Okay,
28th.
July is a
Yeah.
TBD, and the
Yeah.
next two, maybe by
So
June.
I would say
5th.
July and, oh, sorry.
But
go
I
ahead.
mean, to get the questions, we want to get the survey questions together. Do we want to do that by like June 5th?
I'll have them to like by tomorrow.
Super efficient. That's why we
I
can't
think
make her mad.
realistically, spending
But
the
we
next
want
three-
feedback.
We're doing the
3
animal
weeks or so.
ordinance first. We'll let that go first,
Right.
and then after that goes, then I will send it out.
So you're not gonna set up a Google Sheet now where we
I
can start
can,
to do a
I can,
breakdown?
yes.
That's
I
what I
can.
mean, let's set it up
Oh,
so we can
okay.
start to do a brain dump, like if I'm walking tomorrow, I'm like, oh, that would be a great question. I'm not saying that we're gonna use my question, but it's a place, a repository to put it.
Yeah.
And we don't have to decide on what it's gonna do until after the May 28th or 26th or whatever the heck meeting date that is. And then we can focus on the survey
Yeah.
with the idea of sending it out
For July.
after July 4th. Yep. So once we draft and we all agree on what the questions are, we hand it off to you. And maybe you do this one or your survey. Okay. Right.
And I would presume you guys would get the draft and can actually try it out, so we can.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like
Yeah, yeah.
validate that things are working.
okay, so do we,
Then you'll know what our survey answers are.
Won't be confidential.
so July will
answer
still
it.
be TBD and September will still be programming and or volunteer recruitment if we could just really use it to review the survey.
I think that might be.
I
Okay.
think programming is a big one.
Oh, 100%.
So-
And we chose 3 different topics, so like,
Right.
it's May right now, and we're still talking about the same topic in September.
Right.
So like, maybe we take a break and do something else and then come back to, like, maybe we take a break from programming, do volunteer recruitment for a little bit, and then come back to a
We
different
could
category.
and
of,
figure out, I do
Yeah.
think I would still like to see September be this programming survey results. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
fresh in everyone's mind.
Yep,
And
I
then
got
maybe in November, we do volunteer recruitment and bring the seniors in.
I thought you were gonna say wife.
So,
Okay.
So we won't have an agenda then for the July meeting until we get closer, if we know that we're gonna have
Right.
one.
Right.
But I will send out a Google sheet and work on the questions, and then we can all put that together and send it out.
But in parallel, Nick or whoever needs to can start having the conversations with the school about how to be a better partner. Both of us, not, oh, you're looking at Nicole, like, Nicole, do you think
It's
that's
like
a good
really
idea?
big conversation.
That's why we start now?
It's further reaching than even you guys know.
Oh,
Okay, we're
So-
not gonna go there.
No,
Okay,
okay,
okay.
meeting adjourned?
yeah.
That can
But
be a
yes,
goal. It's a
it does
goal.
need to
One of our
happen.
goals all along was to create and cultivate better relationships throughout with
Yeah.
all communities, with all organizations in the community. So that I think should stay on our goal.
But our
list.
programming's gonna hit a wall if we don't have space.
That's the next step, one step at a
Okay.
time. Let's do the survey, collect the
And we're,
data.
you know, from our department standpoints, we're consistently working on our relationships with
Yep,
everyone.
I know you are.
Being new to the town, I'm
Yep.
trying to establish relationships,
Yep.
whether
Mhm.
former or new, and just create different inroads. So,
Yep.
you know, it's a focus of ours as well.
It's ongoing. I mean, it's not something like, oh, okay, I can check that off. I built that relationship. It's ongoing, which we know you're doing. We appreciate that. Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
All in favor? Woo-hoo. All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.